Hey everyone, Flo from Off to Lens here, and today we're going to talk about the new DZO Arles Primes. I have recently shot a short film with these lenses, so in this video I want to talk about my experience with them, what I like and don't like about these lenses, and whether or not I would recommend them. As always, before I start, don't forget to subscribe to see more videos like this one, and let's get into it. So I've been using DZO lenses for about 2 years now. I've started with the Pictozooms, and then I used the Vespeed Retros for 2 of my documentaries. So when they announced these new lenses at NAB, I was pretty keen to try them out, and since I actually live pretty close to the city of Arles, which these lenses are named after, we thought it'd be pretty cool to shoot a short film there. By the way, because I'm French, it feels a bit weird to say Arles or Arles for me because the city is actually named Arles, so I apologize in advance if for some reason I use a different pronunciation. And also, these lenses are not mine to keep, I have them just on loan from DZO. So like I just mentioned, these lenses are named after the city of Arles, but they were also influenced by Vincent van Gogh, which happened to live in that city for a couple of years. So what we wanted to do is basically do a mix between a portrait of the city, but also have an artist at the center of the piece. My wife happens to be an illustrator, so that was a perfect opportunity. The idea was to follow her exploring the city and getting inspired to create her own work. We shot for 2 full days in Arles and 1 day here back home in the French Alps. And by the way, feel free to check out the video if you haven't yet, I'll put a link in the description below, and thank you so much for the positive feedback. Also, feel free to check out my wife's work, I'll also put a link in the description. In terms of cameras, I shot with the Blackmagic Cinema Camera 6K. I picked that camera because it is a full frame one with a pretty large sensor, and these lenses are made for full frame and VistaVision sensors. This was shot with a run and gun / handheld style since we were exploring the city, walking around all day and also visiting monuments. So essentially this project was a mix between a documentary, travel and commercial shoot, which really allowed me to test the lenses the way that I would use them. I also want to mention that I used the DJI Focus Pro. This was of a huge help, and I don't think I would have been able to shoot for as long or as much without it. It was actually a pretty compact kit considering the type of lenses, the focusing system and the camera that I was using. Once we were back at home for the painting scenes, I decided to fully rig it up. So I used my Easy Rig, I used the monitor, I used a matte box, and I used pretty much the same kit that I would use for a proper documentary shoot. As always, you can find all the gear listed in the description below. Now let's get into the lenses. So the kit that I have consists of 5 lenses, the 25mm, the 35mm, the 50, the 75mm, and the 180mm. And they also have plenty of other focal length. All these lenses are manual cine lenses and they are all T1.4, but the 180mm is a T2.4. They cover full frame sensors and even VistaVision thanks to the large image circle. And they also feature an impressive 16 aperture blades. You can get them in both PL and EF. I got the PL versions, but I swapped the mounts to EF. These lenses are also very well made and they feel extremely sturdy. And they also look beautiful in my opinion. In terms of weight, they're roughly between 1.4 and 1.9 kilos. And for size, here's one compared to my Canon Zoom 16-35 and compared to my Siri Jupiter Cine Prime. At the front, they have an 86mm front thread and a 95mm outer diameter. When it comes to price, they retail at around $2,100 per lens or $9,700 for a set of 5. You can find more info on these lenses in the link in the description below. Now let's talk about the things that I like about these lenses. The first thing is that these lenses are very fast. At T1.4, these are some of the fastest lenses I've ever used, and it's really impressive on a full frame sensor. Not only you can get a crazy shot of depth of field, but it also allows you to shoot in low light. A lot of my evening and blue hour shots were actually shot at ISO 400 because I was shooting wide open. And I don't think I went higher than 1250 even when it was super dark. So this is extremely useful. Shooting wide open at T1.4 also allowed me to focus the viewer's eyes on the pen or a specific part of a drawing, for example. And these lenses are quite sharp even at T1.4. Most of the project was actually shot between 1.4 and 2.8. Next is the image. I really like the look of these lenses. You can tell you're using high quality cinema glass straight away. The Arles lenses are on the clean side and they have very controlled contrast and flares. This is something that I like because it allows you to use these lenses on a wide variety of projects. For example, the Respeed Retros that I've used have a huge amount of characters, which is cool, but you might not be able to use them on all projects similar to vintage glass. And the Arles lenses still have character, but it is subtle. I also really like the bokeh, especially on the longer lenses like the 75mm. I think this is probably due to the 16 aperture blades. And on some of the shots I even noticed a bit of a swell, which I really like. Someone actually left a comment on the video that sums up pretty much the look of these lenses for me as well. Clean but not clinical, and pleasing focus in bokeh, plus neutral yet somehow has character. I don't think I can find a better way to describe the look of these lenses, so thank you. Next is the shooting experience, which is obviously very important. These lenses are great to use. I shot for 3 full days pretty much from sunrise to nighttime and I really enjoyed it. The focus and aperture rings, for example, are very smooth and precise with the right amount of rotation and resistance. They're also quite easy to calibrate on a DJI Focus Pro, and I used the lower setting on the motors just to get that natural look and feel. And being cinema lenses, they also have the same size and the same position when it comes to the gear pitch, so that made it quite easy to swap lenses throughout the shoot. It was just me and my wife using backpacks in the middle of the city. It was actually quite quick and easy. Having lenses that cover full frame means that you can actually use them on full frame cameras, but also on Super 35 cameras. These days I tend to gravitate towards full frame glass because I find them more versatile and future-proof, especially now that I use the Cinema Camera 6K and I will most likely use the Pixies very soon. I shot this project in 6K DCI because I knew that I wouldn't deliver open gate, but I decided to put the 25mm open gate just for testing to see if I could see any vignetting, and there was no issue whatsoever. I think consistency is quite important across the set, especially if you're about to film the same scenes with different focal length. We constantly swapped lenses during the shoot and it never altered the look or the feel of the image. Next we have the build quality. These lenses feel extremely well made and you notice that as soon as you pick one up. There is a decent weight to them and they feel quite tight and very well assembled. I've used different cinema lenses over the past few years and these are definitely some of the best when it comes to build quality. So I was quite pleased on the focus distance with these lenses, especially on the 25 and 35mm, and the lens that I was using just prior to that shoot was the Mir Soviet 37mm, which has a ridiculously long focus distance that's very frustrating. So I was quite happy to have the ability to get close to my subject, which was quite important for that type of shoot. So focus breathing is also pretty good. I didn't do any actual proper tests for it, but I did rack focus a few times throughout the shoot and I didn't notice any issues whatsoever. So I only got to try and use 5 lenses out of the full set, but when they all become available, it's pretty impressive. I think between 14mm and 118mm that allows you pretty much to cover any situation. Next is the external look. I know this is very subjective, but I really like the way they look. I'm a big fan of the yellow writing. Just to give you an idea, I got stopped about 20 times when I was shooting just because people were curious about what lenses I was using. They look the part, they look expensive, and to me, they don't look like affordable cine glass, if that makes sense. And lastly, we've got the 86mm front thread and a 95mm outer diameter. I like having both because it gives me the option to use a lightweight VND, like I did for most of the shoot in Arles, but also allows me to use a clamp-on matte box straight away on it like my Nisi one. So because I knew that we would be shooting in a city, in gardens, in monuments, I knew that there would be heaps of people around. I wanted to have a compact setup, so I bought a cheap 86mm front thread ring with a step-up one to 95mm so I could use my Nisi Swift VND, and that worked out really well. And when I was back home, I decided to use the matte box because I wanted to also have the experience shooting with these lenses the way that it's intended, like with a full cinema kit. To be completely honest with you, there's not much that I don't like about these lenses, especially for what you get at that price. I think it's more about things that bothered me while I was shooting or things that I think could be improved. So first of all is weight and size. Obviously these lenses are T1.4 and are made to cover full frame and Vista Vision, so obviously they're going to be quite bulky and heavy. And I don't think they're particularly big for cinema lenses, especially ones that are that fast. There are plenty out there that are much bigger, but I'm talking about the way that I was using them. Because I was shooting handheld, run and gun by myself as a solo shooter, weight and size is obviously important. And of course, this way of shooting or those conditions are probably not the ones that are the main target for these lenses, but it is the way that I shot that project and the way that I shoot most of my projects as well. Just to give you an idea, these lenses essentially are double the size and weight of the Vespids, and you can really feel it. This means that you need, for example, lens support, and you can't really shoot just with the camera and the lens. And since I was also using an adapter on a 6K full frame, you could really tell that I was putting a lot of pressure on the mounts. I think, for example, a camera like the Pixis would be better suited, or the Ursa, as they both have a stronger body in a different shape. That being said, I was actually quite comfortable using the DJI Focus Pro, especially the grip, and using a top handle and a strap. So I did shoot handheld for most of the time, but I also of course used a tripod for the 180mm when I was back home, and also for some of the shots with the 75mm. On a side note, these lenses being quite big and looking expensive attracted a lot of eyes, which is not something that you want when you shoot on your own in a city. I also want to mention that it was a maximum weight that I could put on my Ronin RS4 Pro, which meant that I could only do follow shots because I wasn't able to tilt up or down. I just wanted to mention that because I've had quite a few questions about the Ronin RS4 Pro as well. So it does work, but you just have to be aware of the limitation because of the weight. I think it is pretty much 4.5 kilos total, the kit that I had. If you use a lens that's nearly 2 kilos, plus the camera, the cage and the accessories, you get to that 4.5 kilo limit pretty quickly. Again, it's pretty impressive that it actually does work, that you're able to balance such like proper cinema lenses and cinema cameras on a very small handheld stabilizer like the Ronin. And I was actually quite happy with the shots that I got. So these lenses are quite big and heavy, but I was still able to carry 3 of them in my wanted backpack, the 41 liter, which is pretty handy. The Arles lenses are cinema lenses that cover full frame VistaVision, that are super fast at T1.4, so they have to be quite big and they have to be heavy. There's a lot of glass in there, and they're extremely well made as well because they are made for larger cameras and setups and things like that. If you want something more compact, then the Vespids are still there. And just because I've been asked a few times since I've posted the video, what would I choose between the Arles and the Vespids? I think it comes down to the project as always. If I was to shoot run and gun handheld outside on my own, I would probably pick the Vespids. Just because it's more compact and they're more lightweight. But if I could rig up the camera, if I was to shoot in a more controlled environment, if I had people with me, like 1 or 2 people, then I would definitely pick the Arles, or if I needed to shoot in low light, for example. Or if shooting wide open at T1.4 and having that crazy shallow depth of field, that really focused look was part of the brief, then obviously I would pick the Arles. I think overall the Arles offer more in terms of features and versatility, but as always, it depends on the project. Clean look. So yes, I know that I said that I liked having a clean look, but I think sometimes when I use cinema lenses, I just want a little bit more character. On the website, there's actually a statement that says that there is a coating to minimize reflections and effectively reduce stray lights and ghosting. This ensures stable and controllable flares. And this is exactly what they do and how they perform, and I think, honestly, I would always pick less character than too much character. And I do like the fact that I was able to point at the sun or at super bright lights without getting any ghosting or crazy flares. So on some of the shots there is a bit of CA, it's not a crazy amount, it's barely noticeable. And also keep in mind, as I said, that I was shooting in bright conditions like pointing at the sun or focusing on hard edges or shapes. It didn't bother me at all, you really have to look for it. I didn't notice until I was back home, but because this is a review, I thought I would mention it. That's it about it really. Like I said, this is based on my experience for the shoot that I did with the camera that I had. So yes, I would 100% recommend the DZO Arles Primes. I think these are great lenses to buy or to invest in, as they are very versatile in my opinion. So not only you can cover full frame sensors, but you have the choice of many different focal lengths, they are very well made and look great, and you can shoot in low light thanks to the super fast aperture. And of course the image you're able to get from them is quite beautiful too. I think when you consider the price, the quality and the features you get, they made a pretty competitive set of lenses. That's it for me for today guys, hopefully you've enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider subscribing and let me know if you've got any more questions. And as always, thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Also, feel free to check out my 2 ebooks, Freelance Documentary Filmmaking and Travel Cinematography, where you can find a streamlined but comprehensive overview from pre-production all the way to marketing, built on years of my own experience shooting short documentaries and travel videos around the world. And if you are interested, I'm also doing filmmaking mentoring sessions when you can ask me anything about a wide variety of topics.